If you have to replace a toilet or you want to replace the flushing mechanism inside, then you'll need to turn off the water supply. And you do that with this valve right down here. Now, the problem with this valve is that many of them haven't been operated for a long time. They're frozen up and it's almost impossible to turn them off. Or you turn it off, turn the water back on again, and it leaks. So what I want to show you right now is how to replace one of these, and I'm going to cover the two most common installations. Before starting, I turn off the household water supply. Then place a bowl or pan beneath the valve and disconnect the line. Any water still inside will be collected by the container. Finally, I remove the water supply line from the toilet. Now this valve is sweated or soldered onto the copper pipe. Since I'll be using heat to remove it, I'm taking out the valve stem first, since there are rubber O-rings and washers inside that could melt. A propane torch will provide the necessary heat. I play the flame across both the valve and the copper pipe so they heat uniformly. Then, when the solder softens, I pull off the valve with a pair of pliers. While the pipe is still hot, I use a wet rag to wipe off whatever solder I can. Then, with a strip of sandpaper, remove any remaining material. The idea here is to get the pipe as clean and smooth as possible. Now, even though this valve looks similar, it's not soldered on. This is what's called a compression fitting. Again, I remove the supply line. Then, using a pair of wrenches, I place one wrench on the body of the valve, the other on the compression nut, and loosen. The valve will now slide free. What's left, though, is this compression ring or ferrule. It's firmly attached to the pipe. To remove it, I can use a removal tool like this. It slips over the end of the pipe. The valve nut screws on. Then, by turning the T-handle, pressure is applied to the ring and it's pulled free. Another way to deal with the ferrule is to apply heat. In some cases, this causes the ring to expand enough to allow it to be pulled off. Yet another approach to removing a stubborn ferrule is to simply cut the pipe between the ferrule and the wall. Of course, this can only be done if the remaining pipe is long enough to accept the new valve. With a strip of sandpaper, I clean the outside of the pipe to ensure a smooth, clean surface. Next, using a utility knife, I remove any burr on the inside of the pipe. I could also use the deburring tool that's integrated into many pipe cutters. Now it's time to install the new valve. Now I could solder one on or use a compression fitting, but instead I'm going to use this. It's called a press-to-fit valve. And all I have to do is press it on. I simply put the valve over the head of the pipe and push. There's a trim ring provided to give the installation a finished look. Replacing the water supply line is a good idea whenever a new valve is installed. This type of valve, by the way, requires only a quarter turn to shut off or turn on the water. So if you find yourself with a toilet shutoff valve that's frozen or leaking, well, now you know how to replace it.